What just unfolded inside this committee hearing wasn't just another tense exchange in Washington. It was a moment where the entire room seemed to freeze as Rep. Jared Moskowitz lit into DHS Secretary Kristi Noem with a force that immediately rippled across the chamber. It started with a question that sounded simple, but the second he opened his mouth you could feel the temperature shift. One moment the room was quiet. The next, Moskowitz was calling out what he saw as hypocrisy, double standards, and a pattern of behavior that had gone unchecked for far too long.
Recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to go back to a previous statement by one of our colleagues, Governor Biggs. He said that Democrats have not tried to de-escalate the situation. You know, after the brutal murder of Charlie Kirk, which was domestic terrorism, okay, we tried to de-escalate. After the assassination attempt against the president, which was domestic terrorism, I was appointed to the task force to investigate that assassination attempt. We tried to de-escalate. After the anti-Semitic attack in Colorado, in which you put forward a resolution that included language about ICE's favorable role in that. 75 Democrats voted for that resolution, even though there was no reason to put that in there, but you did it to try to put us on the board. So this idea that that Democrats have said nothing, that we haven't tried to de-escalate, it's just not true. It's just not true. Now, it's not like you guys have any credibility on de-escalation. I mean, literally, we're not the ones who told tens of thousands of people to show up to the Capitol and run in here like a mob, and now you all tell people it never happened. You know, like, oh, that's not what the deal was. It's not like every day there isn't some sort of tweet that just escalates and escalates and escalates. And so, listen, I hope one day we could have a hearing on de-escalation. I would love to participate in a hearing on how we together de-escalate. But looking at one party and saying, you don't de-escalate, I mean, that's literally this dialogue on how we do bring down the temperature together. You know, I want to, we heard about this domestic terrorism thing, right? Domestic terrorism. That was the first thing we heard. I have a question. This is the person who within minutes of the shooting, went on TV and called it domestic terrorism. What is she, hiding her face like her ICE agents now? She can't show her face either? By the way, is this what the $800 billion went to? Every day we see her after there's some new tragedy in Homeland, she's wearing a different outfit with a different hat. I mean, come on, guys, she looks ridiculous. She's not just an embarrassment to the country. She's an embarrassment to you and the president. Okay, she deserves to be removed from her job by the president, and if not impeached, not just for her complete failures in Homeland, but her destruction of FEMA. She's not even running the department. You guys know this. You guys know she's not running Homeland. Your governors and you all, when you need your FEMA money, you don't call Noem, you call Corey. You know she's not running the place. She's a complete and utter embarrassment. By the way, every Homeland Secretary has come in front of this committee once a Congress. I'd like to know the date she's coming. When is she coming?
When is she coming?
When is she coming? By the way, do you know Pam Bondi has not come in front of this committee? Do you know she's the only secretary to not appear in front of a committee yet? When is she coming? What's the date on the calendar that she's coming? You know what? Let's make it easy. I want to make a motion to subpoena Pam Bondi.
Second.
To this committee.
Third, fourth, fifth.
How much are we going to...
The gentleman is not recognized for that motion. However, the chair will advise as to the Attorney General coming for as they do routinely.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. But where is the Attorney General, the only secretary to not appear, okay, in front of a committee? The only one. We're into year 2 of this Congress, and we've not had the Attorney General in front of this committee. How much are we going to weaken Article 1 of the Constitution while you guys remain in power? I watch you twist yourself into pretzels trying to defend this, running away from previous statements, disagreeing with yourself, trying to defend the crap that's happening. And so I'll make a motion again to subpoena Pam Bondi in front of this committee.
Second.
Yes, third, fourth, fifth.
The chair will again.
And the way he said it, you could tell this wasn't scripted, rehearsed, or softened for political convenience. This was raw frustration spilling over after months, maybe years of watching something he believed needed to be confronted on the record. He began by challenging a familiar talking point. Earlier in the hearing, one of his colleagues claimed Democrats had made no effort to de-escalate tensions in the country. Moskowitz did not just disagree, he dismantled the idea piece by piece. He fired back with examples, each one more charged than the last. The brutal murder of Charlie Kirk, which authorities labeled domestic terrorism. The assassination attempt against the president, another incident prosecutors classified as domestic terrorism. The anti-Semitic attack in Colorado, where a resolution was pushed forward that included language implicating ICE in a way he argued was unnecessary. In each case, he insisted Democrats had tried to calm things down. They had issued statements, voted for resolutions, participated in hearings, and in some cases were even assigned to task forces tasked with reducing tensions. Whether people agreed with him or not wasn't the point. What mattered was the passion behind what he was saying. He wanted the record to reflect his version of events, and he wasn't letting anyone twist the narrative. But then he pushed further, turning the spotlight directly on the people accusing Democrats of inflaming tensions. He reminded the room who told thousands to show up at the Capitol, who amplified messages that stirred emotions to dangerous levels, who continued every day, he said, to post comments online that only escalated anger. You guys have no credibility on de-escalation, he snapped, and in that moment you could almost feel the air crackle. Some lawmakers looked down. Others shifted in their seats. The point wasn't subtle. He was accusing the very people lecturing him about rhetoric of creating the very environment they now claim to condemn. And yet that still wasn't what made this moment go viral. It wasn't the back and forth over political responsibility, or the talk of domestic terrorism, or even the accusation of hypocrisy. No, what pushed this into a different category was what came next, because Moskowitz suddenly zeroed in on Kristi Noem, and the tone of the entire hearing changed instantly. He brought up the Colorado shooting again, but this time with a twist. He showed a clip of the person who immediately went on television, within minutes of the incident, calling it domestic terrorism, Kristi Noem. And then he asked a question that stunned the hearing room and the audience watching. Why, he demanded, was she hiding her face? Why were ICE agents hiding theirs? Why was every public appearance a different outfit, a different hat, a different staged backdrop? He mocked the visuals, saying the $800 billion poured into Homeland couldn't possibly be going to this, switching hats after every tragedy, staging dramatic press photos instead of solving problems. But the real blow came when he called her not just an embarrassment to the country, but an embarrassment to her own colleagues, and even the president. He accused her of failing the department, failing FEMA, failing the responsibilities she had sworn to uphold. And then he went even further, claiming she wasn't even running Homeland at all. According to him, when governors needed FEMA funds, they didn't call Noem, they called Corey. He didn't give a last name, he didn't need to. The point was made in his view, she wasn't the one in control. It was a dramatic accusation, one that many online commentators have speculated about before, though no verified reports confirm whether someone else has actual operational control. Still, Moskowitz framed it as his personal understanding, his experience, his frustration with what he believed was dysfunctional leadership. The speculation swirling around the department only added fuel to the fire, making this confrontation feel like the boiling point of a much deeper internal struggle. But even this wasn't the peak. He wasn't done, not even close. After tearing into Noem's record, Moskowitz abruptly pivoted, almost like he'd been waiting for this moment. He pointed out that every Homeland Secretary appears before Congress at least once a term, every single one, except for one, Attorney General Pam Bondi. According to him, she had never shown up, not once, year 2 of the current Congress, and still no appearance, and the room shifted again. Now, he wasn't just criticizing policy, he was accusing top officials of dodging accountability, avoiding oversight, weakening Article 1 of the Constitution by refusing to engage with the branch responsible for oversight. The frustration was pouring out now, unfiltered. He asked again and again, when is she coming? What date? When will the Attorney General appear? And the silence from the other side of the room only fueled him more. Then, without warning, he made a move almost no one expected. He made a motion to subpoena her, loud, clear, and deliberate. Before the chair could even respond, voices echoed, second, third, fourth, fifth. It was a surreal moment of procedural chaos, almost like he wanted to make a point louder than any speech could. The chair tried to shut it down, reminding him he was not recognized for that motion, but Moskowitz didn't back off, not even an inch. He repeated the request, again, and again, each attempt more forceful than the last. At this point the room felt like it was teetering on the edge of losing control, lawmakers talking over each other, the chair hammering his gavel, staffers leaning forward, not sure if they needed to intervene. Even viewers watching the live stream felt it, the sense that something inside that committee room had cracked, revealing a deeper frustration that had been simmering beneath the surface. But what made this moment truly striking wasn't just the intensity, it was the underlying message. Moskowitz wasn't simply attacking Noem or Bondi, he was challenging the entire structure of accountability inside the administration. He was accusing leaders of evading oversight, dodging hard questions, and leaving Congress with no real way to enforce transparency. He was pushing back against what he saw as a pattern: officials refusing to appear, refusing to answer, refusing to acknowledge their responsibilities to the American people. Online reactions erupted immediately. Clips circulated showing his repeated motions, his frustration, his accusations about FEMA, his mockery of Noem's hats, his insistence that accountability couldn't wait. And while some viewers argued he was overly aggressive, others praised him for confronting what they saw as long-ignored issues. A few analysts added another layer, noting that tension between DHS leadership and congressional committees has been building for months. Some even suggested, though only as speculation, that internal disagreements, procedural delays, and communication issues between Homeland and the committee may have contributed to the situation. None of this has been publicly verified, but the buzz surrounding the hearing exploded almost instantly, drawing in viewers who usually ignore congressional proceedings. And what made this moment even more gripping was the way Moskowitz seemed to be speaking not just to the committee, but to a larger unseen audience. Every line carried a tone of someone who'd reached the limit of patience, someone trying to drag problems into the light, someone demanding answers, even if he had to force the issue onto the record himself. By the time the chair finally reasserted control, the damage or impact was done. The frustration was immortalized on camera. The demands for Noem's leadership to be scrutinized were already trending. The absence of Pam Bondi was suddenly a national talking point, and the spectacle of a lawmaker moving to subpoena a cabinet official multiple times in rapid succession became an unforgettable moment in congressional theater. What this confrontation truly revealed was something deeper than a single disagreement. It exposed a growing divide between lawmakers tasked with oversight and officials they believe are avoiding it. It highlighted the rising tension between rhetoric and responsibility, between public messaging and behind-the-scenes decision-making. And it hinted at possible fractures within the administration, fractures that observers have whispered about but rarely seen play out so publicly. As viewers piece together the fallout, one question lingers: was this an isolated eruption, or the beginning of a larger struggle over transparency and accountability? And if Moskowitz was willing to go this far on camera, what's happening behind closed doors that hasn't reached the public yet? What we do know is that this moment won't fade quickly. It's the kind of exchange that sticks in people's minds, not because of the shouting, but because of the stakes. because of the accusations, because of the possibility, however speculative, that something bigger is unfolding beneath the surface, and as always, more developments are likely to emerge, more questions are likely to be asked, and the pressure on DHS leadership, and on Pam Bondi specifically, isn't going anywhere. If you want to stay ahead of every twist in this unfolding political storm, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on notifications. There's a lot more happening behind the scenes, and you won't want to miss what comes next.